corruption. When do you think corruption started in political Sri Lanka?
In fact, an issue of corruption was reported in 1950s for the first time. That was when there was an allegation against certain members of parliament, and for the first time they were dealt with.
What happened? Did they resign? Were they forced out of office?
Yeah, if I remember right, there was a punishment imposed on them, and they were not compelled to resign, but there was action taken against them and punishment was imposed, if I remember right.
Prime Minister Bandaranaike himself, there's some school there of thought that he was killed because he refused to play ball in terms of the awarding of some sort of shipping contract or a contract of some sort, and then the very people who sort of propelled him into power, or who were once his supporters, grew unhappy with him and decided that they would then dispense with him, and he then met his untimely death. Is there some sort of truth in that matter? Is there some currency there?
I know that can't be the only reason. There were several other reasons actually for what happened to the former Prime Minister S.W. Bandaranaike, who was fondly called SWRD. You know?
So we fast forward. We've had since then, of course, we had Mrs. Bandaranaike a couple of terms and so on. How corrupt was it during Mrs. Bandaranaike's time then?
I think the rate of corruption gradually increased, say from 1970s, and for the first time, Mr. Felix Rayas Bandaranaike brought in even Ian Wickramanayake, and thereafter in 1970s again, 77 was a crucial juncture. We opened up the economy. It became, again constitutionally, an executive president was introduced. There was a touch of Westminster system too, and since then I believe the parliament to some extent could not maintain its supremacy with regard to accountability, because parliament in fact is the place where people's representatives serve. They are elected representatives, and parliament is ultimately responsible for the public, in the sense the politicians looks after accountability, but all that did not happen that way. Say after the parliament was devalued to some extent.
We are living in an age of a wonderful term which is called good governance, and this current sort of two-party consensual government. I'm trying to avoid the use of the word national because I have my own views on that, but let's say a consensual government between the two mainstream parties. Now, within this good governance, this good governance comes on the back of serious allegations of rampant corruption under the Rajapaksa years, and but we also have corruption carrying on now, even under this new sort of good governance government. Is corruption out of control in Sri Lanka, do you think?
If I may look at it this way, now in 2007 and again 2013, now this was Vijaydas Rajapaksa as chairman of COPE, and then in 2013 Diugunasekara came up with a number of reports. That's how the COPE came into light. Like the Presifac in 2015, Say, I would say in the latest report submitted by Dewgunasekara in 2013, it spoke about 1,500 billion of losses. The government had to lose all that money due to all types of corruption, misappropriations and various other reasons.
Right.
Now the report elaborated in detail as to how all that had happened.
Right.
So as you said, there has been corruption always during the last couple of decades, I would say.
To talk more about corruption, we'll do so after this short commercial break. Do stay tuned to the Hot Seat. Good evening and welcome back to the Hot Seat with Mr. Lassell de Silva. So, Lassell, the point I think we need to ask is whether the government is on the right track towards not only investigating this large-scale and almost rampant corruption, but also whether appropriate steps are in hand to recover these monies. Money that the government doesn't have, the money that the people simply don't have, as revealed by our door-to-door Gammadda program, which perhaps you've been following. So, are we on the right track? Are they going to...
Let me answer your question this way.
Yeah.
As was revealed in the Gammadda program, that speaks about the truth. Ultimately, there is so much of poverty in the country, and in my own analysis, that is all due to corruption. There's no two words about it.
Yeah.
Right? So, over a period of time,
Yeah.
I think we have neglected the primary duty.
Yeah.
And from 1978, again in 1994, again 2005, this time again we have come to a crucial juncture, and the present government came into power having assured that they will fast track the whole thing, and for that purpose the president also gave an undertaking during the course of elections that they will establish a powerful presidential commission. Accordingly, it was done. So I believe they are on course to take meaningful steps to stop corruption, and also, if possible, there is also a process to recover all that money the country had lost owing to serious cases of allegations of corruption that had taken place in the country.
One of the drivers of good governance, of achieving regime change and deposing or elbowing out Mahinda Rajapaksa, was the former president Chandrika Kumaratunga. Now, to me, I find it rather rich that Madam Kumaratunga, former president and so on, can be part of this exercise of good governance, because we mustn't forget that Mrs. Kumaratunga, at one point, she said that she had to rely on her mother's jewelry to educate her two children abroad, I take it to mean. Now, that's all well and good, because we all know that Miss Ratwater, the former, the person who then became Mrs. B, hailed from a sort of landed gentry, and her wealth would have been unquestionable. However, what I'd like to know is, if we are talking about good governance and so on, why can't Mrs. Kumaratunga explain to the general public as to how she managed to fly up, down and sideways to her adoptive home in Great Britain, in London? She does shopping there, obviously, you know. Do they accept shirt buttons in payment, or do they accept sterling pounds? And where does this money come from? What is her income? What is her wealth? Do you think it's relevant for me to be pondering on these issues?
Anyway, without going back in detail in that way, you know, I have a feeling there have been all types of accusations against various government leaders, like past presidents and past prime ministers or whatever. Right now, my question is, this government again started saying that before the elections that they will have to weed out corruption and replace law and order and good governance. Let me, without blaming anybody, say, because it's not fair on my part to make predictions at the moment.
Right.
Because I know genuinely there have been efforts, both by the President and the Prime Minister, that we need to change the track. And we need to pursue good governance, because without good governance there is no future for this country. That must be stated clearly.
Lasil, is it time for us to have, we have many awards. We have, this organization has its EOTY awards, and the film industry has those awards, and some various news organizations have different awards. There's Miss World, there's Mr. Sri Lanka, all sorts of things. Why don't we start an award, the Hot Seat Award for the most corrupt politician in Sri Lanka? Who do you think would be?
It will take a little longer, because...
You mean a little longer to study the files?
Generally, the cases going into corruption and ultimately taking them to court.
Right, let's change the title of the award slightly. Let's call it the Hot Seat Awards for the most perceived corrupt politician. Who would that be?
I can't...
you can't say.
I can't, until they are proved, basically. That should not be the way how I should look at people, because even when we win the commission, we never wanted to look at that way. But we did the right thing in order to pursue the cases properly.
But you've given me a good idea. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this program, my email address will come up on the screen shortly. You send me your nominations for the Hot Seat Most Perceived Corrupt Politician in Sri Lanka. So from the time of independence until now, send us your nominations. Send it to me, and we'll see what we can do about it. All right. So there you are. You give me a good, excellent idea. But seriously, do you think corruption in this country is on the scale of Zimbabwe? Or Baby Doc Duvalier and all these other people who've fallen foul of the system? There was that awful chap in Ethiopia, I think he was. We had Idi Amin, all Uganda, all sort of despotic, desperate rulers. Do you think that here in this country, are we getting anywhere close to those yardsticks?
Unless we change the system, I think within a very short period of time, it could be the fate. Because even in Zimbabwe in 1960, when he, when he came into power, he assured that he will follow the same path followed by the previous ruler, Ian Smith, right? Now again, look at South Africa. Right? Now the present president in South Africa ultimately came into power having won a massive, victory. It was a massive landslide victory. Actually, now again, let me say, which was a developed country, it happened to be now fast declining. Now, long years ago, Malaysia, Singapore, they spoke about Sri Lanka. Where is Malaysia now? Where is Singapore today? Where are we?
Let's take a short break and come back and find out where we are. Stay tuned to the Hot Seat. Back to the Hot Seat, and good evening. And let's join Mr. Lasil de Silva. Lasil, are there corrupt politicians even in this government? I promise you I won't follow up by asking you to name them, but a yes or no would be sufficient.
Let me go on the basis of records. This is what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article to Daily Mirror on the 20th of January 2015. That was immediately after this government was elected.
Yeah.
The title is On the Right Path Against Corruption. I think everybody should read this article. I will quote certain sections from the article because your question is, you want to find out whether there have been corrupt politicians and without naming them. Let me quote what I have written from
well, I don't mind you naming them, but I just wanted to say
that's not the way how I should do
yes,
that.
That's right. So I understand that.
I don't think I should do it that way. But there is enough evidence to prove that there has been corruption in this country. This is how I have written in that article. The COP during the period has revealed that a land owned by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation in extent of 8.2 acres adjoining the harbour had been sold for rupees 64 million through the perk with the signature of a former president, and owing to this transaction the country had lost over 65 billion. COP also disclosed to Parliament that corruption and malpractices had risen to unimaginable heights in 26 state institutions, including the Bank of Ceylon, the Electricity Board, Petroleum Corporation, and the National Water Supply and Drainage Board. Some private companies were indebted for a sum of rupees 7,000 million. The non-performing loans granted by the bank was 13 billion. It had also revealed that Mercantile Limited had evaded payment of rupees 5,780 million. The COP disclosed that a sum of rupees 150 billion was lost in this manner owing to corruption, fraud and misappropriation. COP reported that at the time at National Water Supply and Drainage Board, there was a wastage of 51% running water. The highest water wastage in the Asian region is reported in Sri Lanka. In Japan, this rate is only 7%. However, political maneuvering and crossovers witnessed saw an abrupt end to all these findings. The failure on the part of the government to extend any kind of support towards COP has sent a wrong message to the country and corruption, etc. That's what I had written on the 20th of January 2015.
It's 5 days after, or a week after. Well, be that as it may be, why can't we, what is the fundamental problem in addressing corruption? What is it? Is it just natural greed which is taken hold of? Or what is it? Is it the system? Is there a systemic failure?
It is certainly a systemic failure, and I believe we need to change the attitudes, because attitudinal change is also definitely a must.
Can we put it another way? Is there any particular party that is more corrupt than the other?
According to this, what I read, most of the parties that had been in power have been corrupt. There's no two words about it.
Are Sri Lankans as a whole, can we consider ourselves lucky that our legislators, successive governments, haven't allowed or haven't taken our country down the slippery path, as in, say, Zimbabwe, for example?
No, I wouldn't agree with you. Basically, they have done the same thing, because in 1948, when we got independence, we had a very strong public administration system. That's now in bits and pieces. Similarly, the parliamentary traditions, what we had adopted, what we had practiced, is no more there in parliament. School, even the former speaker in parliament said, the school children, they cannot be they cannot be brought to parliament because the kind of behavior that was there is not acceptable. So there are reasons, and not very satisfactory, I would say.
So not a satisfactory situation at all. But I want to touch a little bit about Presifac. What can Presifac do? Are they there only to investigate and then recommend a prosecution, or actually carry out the prosecution themselves?
Presifac, according to what I feel, it had done two things. It had sent a message to the country, to the bureaucrats and the politicians, that they should not resort to this kind of practices. So they are somewhat cautious now. And the other thing, they do study, let me say it that way, to find out whether there has been an involvement in regard to corruption, and they put forward their recommendations to the Attorney General for the Attorney General to take legal action if they have been found to be involved in this kind of corruption.
Do you think there's a case to have in Sri Lanka a form of anti-corruption Tsar, the Tsar of anti-corruption, some high-profile, beyond reproach, upstanding, unbending, uncompromising patriot? Do you think there's a need for such a person? And secondly, does such a person exist?
Are you asking whether we need a dictator?
No, we need one person to look into who has all-encompassing powers and who would be the chief of the anti-corruption unit, with a mandate, with a brief to have zero tolerance. Is it workable, or am I living in some utopian world?
No, basically, even in other countries in the world, internationally, there have been very strong commissions of this nature to fight corruption. So if now that they have established a commission like this, I think that's good enough. If they are given enough powers, they'll be able to do the job.
Right.
Because there are two other bodies like CID, the FCID, even the Bribery Commission.
On corruption and wastage and so on, what do you say? Last final word. What do we need? Do we need the Bribery Commission, or do we need a strengthened Bribery Commission? Do we need a complete revamping of the Bribery Commission? Do we need an amalgamation of the FCID, the Bribery Commission, the Pressifac, all rolled into one big super mega police? Not megapolis, but mega police.
I personally feel this arrangement is okay, but they should be allowed to do a good job of work. If they are given further strength, I think we could achieve the dreams.
We shall see where these dreams take us. But in the meantime, thank you very much for being on the program, and we look forward to seeing you again. And do watch The Hot Seat, same time, same place, next week. Take care.